As I sit on my bed, the chaotic noises of my family filtering through the thin walls prick at my senses. Familiar echoes of anger and disappointment wrap around me like heavy fog as I glance at the clock. Tick, 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 the sound reverberates in my chest, reminding me that time is relentless. It has been 6 full months since I last spoke with him, my brother, Jason. 6 months of silence that feels like a wound slowly festering beneath a facade of calm. The silence should bring relief, but it only amplifies the agony beneath the surface. I close my eyes for a moment, trying to block out the shouts that slice through the air. They come in waves, crashing against my resolve and dragging me back into memories I want to forget. Jason is good at that, making you relive your pain over and over again, a cruel artist of emotional manipulation. I can't help but feel frustration simmering beneath my skin as I replay the images of our last confrontation, the desperation in my mother's voice, her fragile hands shaking as she pleaded for peace. "Please, Jason, just try to calm down," she had said, her voice choking on the words as if they were stones in her throat. I remember the look on his face, twisted in anger, the way he seemed to draw energy from our family's suffering, like a vampire feasting on what little goodwill we had left. "You're not my mom, you're just a weak little woman," he had sneered, the cruelty in his eyes reflecting a darkness I wish I could erase from my mind. I place my head in my hands, fingers running through my hair as I take in the sight of our small, shared room. It is cluttered with remnants of childhood, rag-stuffed animals, old-school projects, and yet it feels like a tomb, adorned not with memories of love but with shadows that loom large. I long for the days when laughter bounced off these walls instead of screams, but those days feel like a distant dream, lost to the chaos that has seeped through the cracks in our family. My heart aches not only for myself but for my mother. She sacrifices her own needs to soothe the raging storm that has become Jason. I can't remember the last time I saw her smile genuinely. Now each night I catch her slipping into the laundry room, a sacred place where she can breathe quietly, away from the whirlwind that threatens to engulf her. I wonder if she cries there under the harsh glow of the single light bulb that swings gently above her as she folds the clean clothes, her shoulders trembling with unshed tears. If only I could comfort her, lift the weight from her weary heart. But instead I feel like an outsider in my own home, watching helplessly as Jason continues his reign of terror, leaving both my parents defenseless. And my father, he is almost invisible, sitting in his chair with his newspaper, half of it crumpled in his lap, his spectacles fogging up in the stillness. He is hard of hearing, which leaves him at the mercy of Jason's outbursts. Looking at him makes my heart ache even more. All he has ever wanted was to hold our family together with gentle hands, but instead he seems lost in a battle he can't understand or fight. I picture him in his younger days, a laughing man with dreams and aspirations before the weight of life and family crushed those hopes. And then that night when everything changed, the memory seeps into my thoughts like a slow poison. The air felt thick with panic as if the very walls had begun to close in on us. Just leave me alone. I had screamed, heart racing faster than I thought possible, a heartbeat loud enough to drown out everything around me. "Stop picking on me." I remember feeling cornered like an animal, primal instincts kicking in as fear surged through my veins. And Jason, wild-eyed and fueled by a rage that seemed to have no end, came at me with a fury I had never seen before. I can still hear the shattering sound of something breaking. Was it a picture frame? Or was it something sacred, something to mark the moment we stopped being a family? The neighbors had burst in just in time, shaken and wide-eyed, pulling me from the jaws of the chaos. The look of horror on their faces mirrored my own. I remember the sirens that followed, the blue and red lights painting our house in stark colors, and the murmurs of childhood friends who had seen too much too soon. The scars of that evening are etched sharply into my memory. They are dark scribbles in a diary I can never close. Tonight, as I hear yet another explosion of Jason's voice, my resolve crystallizes. I can't let this continue. I can no longer ignore the chaos swirling around me, consuming our lives one argument at a time. I need to fight back, to do something to break free from the chains that bind us to this cycle of despair. The thought ignites a fire within me. No more sitting idly by, playing the role of the silent witness in our family tragedy. In the solace of my bed, I lift my phone, the cold metal pressing against my palm. I have made a decision. I will document everything. Each outburst, each cruel word, preserved in time like a price tag on Jason's tyranny. I click the camera icon, my heart hammering in my chest as I begin to record. My hands shake slightly as I capture the scene unfolding from my bedroom door. A familiar shout fills the air, and I can see my brother pacing the living room, his energy crackling with madness. "You think I care what you say? You're not my mom, just shut up," he echoes, lacing his words with venom. I narrow my eyes, fighting against the urge to jump in and confront him. Instead, I let my camera do the talking, capturing every rage-filled moment. I watch as he looms over my mother, her shoulders rounded and her hands raised in surrender, a silent plea floating between them. "Please, Jason," her tired voice trembles, "let's not do this again." The desperation in her tone sends a shiver down my spine. I can almost feel her heartache. As I film, I replay the moments over and over in my mind. I think about how I can use this as proof, a declaration that Jason has gone too far. I try not to let anger cloud my vision, but it is difficult when I see him push her further, his voice unrelenting like a crashing wave. You're nothing without me, you are worthless. He bellows, his eyes almost manic as he throws insults like daggers, leaving my mother gasping for breath. My heart races as I edit the clips together afterwards, a whirlwind of emotions swirling in my gut. Each click of the screen brings me closer to not just documenting my pain, but transforming it into a powerful plea for justice. I am prepared to confront Jason with undeniable evidence, a clarity that has so long eluded our chaotic household. This feels like a pivotal moment, a spark igniting in the darkness. The night wears on and the weight of determination settles on my shoulders. I envision the confrontation, the release of everything pent up inside me, my voice steady as I lay down the evidence, forcing both Jason and my parents to reckon with the monster he has become. I yearn for a reckoning, the truth laid bare and exposed to raw, piercing light. I want Jason to face the reality of his own actions, to see the destruction he has wreaked on our family with clarity. And maybe, just maybe, it will break the grip he has over us. Beneath my anger, my heart aches for what our family once was. I long for laughter and love to replace the shadows, a chance at healing. If I can succeed in pulling the curtain back on his manipulation, perhaps we can rediscover the threads of connection that once held us together. As I sit there recording, my fingers moving over the screen with newfound purpose, I realize I am not just documenting moments of rage. I am reclaiming my power, gathering the strength to break this cycle of pain. Tomorrow may hold challenges, but I refuse to be the silent observer any longer. I am ready to ignite the fire of change, even if it means walking into the brewing storm head-on. The days turn into weeks. It is an endless, painful loop of fear and determination. Each time I press record, my fingers tremble, barely able to hold the phone steady as I witness Jason's fury erupting. It feels like I am harboring a toxic secret that taints every inch of our home. The walls seem to close in around me, holding whispers of my mother's laughter, now overshadowed by the cruel echo of my brother's rage. It becomes a ritual of sorts, gathering the fragments of our broken family through the lens of my camera. I brace myself for what lies ahead, knowing that every time I relive those moments of torment, I am also one step closer to releasing the truth. By the time I am ready to unveil everything, I can hardly recognize the girl I was a month ago. Who could have thought I would turn into this person, seeing the world through shadows and brightening it slowly with the flickers of truth? The day has finally come. I can feel the tension tethering me to the living room like an unseen force. A normal evening in my parents' home, yet I can sense the anticipation buzzing beneath the surface, like a hungry predator waiting to strike. I chose tonight specifically, the familiarity of rhythm, the bittersweet aura of a family night that feels just a beat away from an upheaval. Everyone, can we gather for a moment? I call out, my voice slightly unsteady. The gentle hum of the television behind us is abruptly silenced as my father turns to look over the couch, brow furrowed in curiosity. My mother in the kitchen pauses as she wipes her hands on a dish towel, her expression shifting from delight to concern. "What is it, honey?" my mom asks, her voice laced with the warmth that always makes me feel safe, yet right now it feels heavy with an impending storm. I swallow hard, my heart thumping loudly in my chest as I glance toward the carpeted steps where Jason sits, earbuds dangling from his ears, oblivious. "Can you both?" I stop for a moment, glancing boldly at Jason. "Can you both come in here, please?" "Sure, just give me a minute," Jason replies dismissively, rolling his eyes, but I know his light sarcasm masks something deeper. I pull my lips into a tight line. I wonder if he has any idea what I have planned, if this is about to shatter the mask he wears like second skin. After what feels like an eternity, they come in. My father is tall and broad, the way he stands suggests he can shield us all, yet I crave more than protection. I need action. My mother catches my eye, and her warmth is a hint of the love that long ago turned into something thick and suffocating as we navigated Jason's storms together. "Is everything okay?" my father asks, concern now etching lines deeper into his forehead. I can see the moment he recognizes the gravity in my demeanor, his chest heaving slightly as he braces himself. "Sit down," I instruct softly, gesturing to the couch like I'm giving a presentation about explosives, because that's what this is, an explosion ready to happen. "Mom, Dad," I start, my voice wavering despite the weight of my intention. "I have something to show you, something important." Shakily, I pull at the phone from my pocket, the device now feeling heavier than it ever had, a burden of truth ready to unfold. "Clara, what is this about?" My father's voice is sharp, cutting through my fog, impatience beginning to irk him. "Just watch, please, just watch," I urge, pressing the play button before their eyes can narrow further. The first clip bursts to life, the scene of a familiar, chaotic night, Jason's voice screaming, full of venom. As it unfolds, I notice how Jason's silhouette grows larger on the screen, how his face becomes a mask of rage, contorting as he hurls accusations and threats. His screams tear into the warm atmosphere of our living room, ripping the air into frayed pieces that surround us like smoke. "Why are you guys making everything about me?" I hear him yell in the clip, the bitterness dripping from his voice like poison, and I glance up at my parents, anticipating horror and recognition. They sit there, still and wide-eyed, the reality slowly dawning over their features. "Jason, stop," I can remember the trembling voice of my younger self pleading in the background. Tears prick my eyes, yet I blink them away. This is why I am here. I need to see their faces as the truth unravels. My mother gasps, the deep sadness in her breath a mix of denial and broken acknowledgement. I didn't know, she whispers, almost as if she hopes it will vanish like a fleeting ghost. My father's hands clench into fists, an instinctive reaction as anger boils in his veins. That can't be how he acts all the time, he says, desperately holding onto the threads of disbelief. The clip continues, forcing them to confront what they have been avoiding. I captured Jason smashing a plate he had thrown across the kitchen, the shattering glass reflecting the shards of our family's life I want to gather and assemble back into something whole, something worth fighting for. I did not raise him to be like this. None of you have ever seen how he treats me. I hear my voice crack through the speaker, pleading and raw, a shot of adrenaline surging through my core. No more secrets, no more avoidance. It is time. What is wrong with him? My father's voice trembles, disbelief morphed into anger. Why did you never tell us he was like this? I tried. Every time I thought he might change, he went right back to hurting us. I maintain eye contact with him, challenging him to deny what stands bare before us. Stop it, just stop it. Jason's voice erupts from the speaker. Suddenly, he's part of the conversation even though he is still absent in our room, his essence invading our safe haven. My skin prickles as my heart remembers that fear. My palms become sweaty with adrenaline and dread, but there's an odd sense of freedom rising within me. Do you see this? I ask my parents, feeling the heat of my own anger bubbling to the surface. It is the first time I am openly defying him, even if he isn't physically here. Mom, Dad, this is what happens when you look away, when you pretend it will just get better. This is what he is. Tears slide down my mother's cheeks as she watches, and suddenly the atmosphere thick with panic constricts, morphing into an uninhibited sorrow. I expect Jason to burst through the door at any moment, and I briefly wonder if we will be able to confront that reality as a family, or if he will tear apart our fragile veneer once and for all. I can't believe this, my father finally breathes, confusion clouding his eyes before a glint of recognition ignites like a match to fire. It grows. My heart races as I see my father clench his jaw tight enough to break the tension. No one deserves to be treated like this, I breathe. Not you, not me, and certainly not Mom. In that moment, I watch as the weight of realization sinks heavily upon their shoulders. My mother takes a trembling breath, looking at my father as though she's searching for solidarity, fighting through the maze of her own confusion. We need to talk to him, she finally whispers, her voice thick, heartbroken. If we confront him now, that might make things worse, I say cautiously, but there is a fire in my veins, flaring up at the thought of him knowing there are consequences for his actions. But we can't walk away from this, we can't turn our backs anymore. Clara, we need a plan, my father responds, pushing his hands violently through his hair, his frustration spilling over. We need to think this through. No, I shout, the word echoing through the room, sending a shiver down my spine. We need to act. This is about us finally standing up to him. I swallow hard, my breath shaky, but I continue. We can't let him control any of us anymore. Jason's voice still rages quietly in the background, but the silence that envelops us is thick with resolve. The air shifts as acceptance rises, filling the void left by unconditional fear. I step back, finally catching my breath, for the first time aware that this confrontation does not end with simply playing back the footage. It will begin something altogether different, something powerful. Anger and sorrow mingle in a chaotic dance, yet something beautiful lurks beneath. Hope. I glance at my parents, their expressions now intertwined, stories etched into their features as we stand on the brink of new beginnings. Finally, we are ready to unravel the bonds that have held us captive for too long. Each whisper of tension becomes a heartbeat synchronizing our resolve, a promise that tonight will spark resistance against the darkness that has stifled our family for too long. They will listen, they will change, and together we will find a way to shield one another from the storm. The air crackled with tension, thick with an unspoken dread that constricted my lungs. I stood there, heart pounding, feeling the fury radiating off him like heat from a raging fire. The dim light of the living room flickered ominously, casting twisting shadows on the walls, shadows that seemed to mimic the fear slithering through my veins. As I looked at him, so familiar yet so transformed, I felt like I was watching a storm unleash its power, the calm facade of control he had maintained finally giving way to chaos. You think you can play the hero, Clara? You are just a coward hiding behind a screen. The words erupted from his mouth, each one soaked in contempt, venom dripping off every syllable as if poison had seeped into his very being. I could practically feel the shards of his rage aimed directly at me, cutting deep. My parents stood frozen, their expressions morphing from disbelief to horror as they witnessed the transformation of their son into someone unrecognizable. This is not who you are, Jason, I shouted back, my voice a mixture of defiance and desperation that echoed off the walls. I could hear my heart thumping in my ears, an unsettling reminder of the dynamic we had navigated for years. I wanted to reach out and shake him, wake him from the nightmare that seemed to have woven itself into the fabric of our lives. Then my mother broke through the silence that engulfed the room. She stood up, trembling but fierce, a fire igniting in her eyes that I had never seen before. We cannot allow this to continue, Jason. We deserve better. Her voice trembled, but there was a strength in her words that filled me with pride. For once, she was not cowering before the storm. She was standing tall beside me, unified against the tempest of his anger. The rage intensified, morphing into something even more violent and unpredictable. Doom hung in the air as he hurled a lamp against the wall with a sickening crash. The sound echoed like thunder, a sharp reminder of the chaos that had invaded our home, splintering the glass and sending it scattering across the floor like my hopes from years of silent suffering. I flinched at the sound, my instincts screaming at me to distance myself from the wrath before me. "You are all against me. I will end this once and for all." His voice boomed, an animalistic growl that raised goosebumps on my skin. It felt as if the walls themselves were closing in around us, draped in the shadows of his fury that wrapped around my heart like icy tendrils. Terror gripped at my core, squeezing so tightly I felt like I could barely breathe, but despair was not an option. I felt a jagged spike of courage, a sudden clarity as I stood there, gathered inside the storm. This was my moment, my chance to fight for the freedom we so desperately needed. Taking a deep breath, I moved closer to him, defiance propelling me forward until I faced him head-on. "We are not against you, Jason. We are here because we care, but you need help. We are tired of the pain you cause." Those words, my admission, hung at the precipice, fragile yet unwavering, the bitter truth that threatened to tear apart the veneer Jason had built around himself. I felt the weight of my parents' presence behind me, their silent strength supportive like two pillars reinforcing my stance. I could almost hear their hearts pounding alongside mine, a resonating drumbeat of unity that vibrated through the air. It was as if we had transformed from scattered souls into a single force of purpose. Jason's face twisted, caught in the maelstrom of his own emotions, his anger flickering momentarily as a glimpse of confusion crossed his features. I felt a jolt of hope, a dangerous flicker that perhaps there was a part of him still willing to fight against the monsters inside. "You think you can change me?" he spat, anger flaring again as his eyes burned like molten coals, churning with fury I had seen erupt before, but never quite like this. "You think this is just a phase? I am who I am, and you cannot change that." I recoiled instinctively, but I refused to falter. "It's not about changing you, Jason. It's about making you see that you don't have to be this version of yourself." My words erupted from me, charged with emotion, surfing the waves of his fury and pushing back like a strong tide against the relentless rush. The room pulsed with energy as my parents stepped forward, fear momentarily forgotten in the grip of determination. "We want to help you," my mother stated resolutely, her voice breaking slightly but still steady. My father added, "We all deserve to be happy, Jason. This pain, this chaos, it doesn't have to be our reality." Jason's gaze darted between us, frustration and confusion battling in his storm-tossed mind. I could see the turmoil flickering behind his eyes, the cracks in the mask he typically wore becoming more pronounced. This was a war, my family against the monster he had become, and slowly, piece by piece, I could feel the walls beginning to crumble. "You don't know what it's like. You don't know what I have endured," he shouted, his voice like a whip, stinging the space between us. I could see him panting, beads of sweat beginning to form at his temples. There was a real vulnerability beneath the bluster, raw nerves exposed in the bitter moment. For a heartbeat, I could taste the bitterness of hopelessness, of battles fought and losses endured. "Then let us know. Let us in," I pleaded, my voice softer, hoping to breach the wall he had erected around himself. "You are not alone in this, Jason. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself. Let us help you carry it." In that moment, I meant every word. I wanted a chance for the boy I once knew, the brother I had adored without reservation, to resurface, unchained from the darkness that enveloped him. His expression flickered again, irritation mingling with something more profound, fear, perhaps. It was then that I noticed the way his whole body trembled, the way he leaned heavily against the wall for support, as if the weight of his actions threatened to crush him entirely. "You just don't get it. There's no place for me anymore. I've burned all my bridges." My heart sank at the desperation in his words. I could see the shadows deepening in his eyes, the haunting memories written across his face. "Please, Jason, healing is possible, but you need to confront it. You need to confront yourself." There was a silence that followed, heavy and thick, like a shroud enveloping us as he squeezed his eyes tight, battling some invisible force I could almost see, a tug-of-war between despair and a peculiar flicker of hope. Suddenly, he let out a growl that echoed off the walls of our home, a raw and primal sound that sent a shiver deep within me. "I am done. You think you can just talk your way into my life? I will not endure this pathetic charade any longer. You don't know the lengths I have gone to survive." Each word was like a dagger, laced with desperation and anger, cutting into the very core of our fragile family dynamic. And yet, as I stood there, contemplating the storm in front of me, I understood that perhaps Jason was more frightened than anything. The chaos he created was a warped reflection of his inner turmoil, a desperate plea for control twisting into a path of destruction. "You are right," I responded quietly, breaking the charged silence that gripped the room. "I don't know your battles, but I want to learn. I want to stand beside you through this to help you find a way back, not just for you, but for all of us." My parents' presence felt invigorating, the air was thickening with shared purpose and love. "You are better than the shadows that haunt you," my father emphasized, stepping closer, defying the looming divide. "You can choose different. You can choose healing." Jason's demeanor shifted, and for the first time the storm seemed to still. his fists unclenched, and a glimmer of uncertainty flickered across his face. I could see layers of pain unfurl, revealing a soul laden with fear, craving connection while simultaneously shoving us away. I no longer feared the storm. I sensed the possibility of rain followed by the chance of sun. And then, just as abruptly as he had exploded, he dropped to his knees, the fight draining from him like a flooded river receding. The crash of the lamp echoed in my mind, a reminder of each battle fought until this moment. "I don't want to lose you," he whispered, his voice a broken whisper, fragile and trembling as he bowed his head. My heart broke open at the sight before me, my brother, the boy I had loved, washing away the layers of anger and misery, surrendering to a glimmer of vulnerability. "You don't have to lose us, Jason." I reached out, taking a step closer, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "Together, we can face it all." That night became a turning point. The chaos in our home began to dissipate, giving way to a fragile yet profound possibility of healing. I felt the weight of my brother's pain lifting, and for the first time in what felt like eons, I could finally breathe easier, knowing that the tides had turned. The echoes of our confrontation lingered, and we stood united, facing the dawning of a new chapter, one filled with the hope of rebuilding from the ashes. As a family together, it has been several weeks since that fateful confrontation that laid bare my brother's buried chaos. Each day, the sun rises and falls outside our windows just as it always does, but within the walls of our house, the transformation feels almost miraculous. I stand in the kitchen, the warm scent of roasted chicken wafting through the air, mingling with rosemary and garlic, and I can sense the atmosphere here shifting, slowly but surely. My brother's therapy sessions have begun to chip away at the anger that once consumed him, and while he has fallen further into a delicate recovery process, I can't shake this cautiously optimistic feeling as I watch him battle his demons. Tension used to hang in the air like a thick fog, but now it feels lighter, allowing us to breathe. The clang of silverware breaks my thoughts as I set the dinner table. Each plate gleams under the warm glow of the overhead lights, a symbol of unity as much as function. As I pour water into glasses, I can't help but notice the rainbow of vegetables resting in the center, vibrant and inviting. My parents have begun to reclaim their power, and the change in my mother is perhaps the most remarkable of all. No longer the weary figure I remember, she has transformed, prioritizing herself with a vigor that fills our home with a new life. I find myself smiling more often, and laughter, oh that sound, fills the air like music, twinkling notes threading into the fabric of our once somber existence. As my father hefts his large frame into the chair and adjusts his hearing aids, I catch a glimpse of a man who is growing and not shrinking, standing tall at the dinner table. The way he engages in conversations now, with a spark in his eyes, delights me. Gone are the days when he would remain silent, lost in his own world. "What did you bring home today, Clara?" he asks, his excitement palpable as he leans ever so slightly forward. It's the first hint of youthfulness I have seen in him in years. I beam at him, "Just a few things from the farmer's market. Can you believe how fresh the produce is this time of year?" I lift the small bowl of succulent cherry tomatoes and place it in front of him. He nods enthusiastically. "Those look wonderful. Did you see the size of the zucchini? I think you could have carved one as a pumpkin if you wanted to. I used to make all sorts of dishes with fresh vegetables in the summer. Maybe we should have a family cook-off." Jason's laughter suddenly rings out, a sound I once feared but now treasure. "As if you stand a chance, Dad. Clara's been practicing her cooking skills for several weeks. She'll outdo you in no time." His smile, genuine and warm, is a sight for sore eyes, almost too good to be true. I can't help but join in the laughter, but my heart flickers with surprise at how far we have all come. Jason's voice holds none of the previous venom. Instead, it drips with camaraderie, a brotherly bond returning to its rightful place. The weight of our history still lingers in the corners of my mind, but in moments like these, I allow myself to push the shadows away and savor this tentative peace. "Maybe we could have a competition," I say, linking my gaze with Jason's, where I find a glimmer of mischief dancing in his eyes. "First, we take turns making dishes, and at the end of the week, we host a family dinner and let Mom and Dad judge. Winner can choose the next family outing." "You're on," he declares, enthusiasm radiating from him. I can hardly believe it. My once dominating brother now appears eager to forge connections. What has happened to us? I again feel that flicker of hope inside. As we settle into conversation over our meal, chicken so tender it almost falls off the bone and steaming vegetables bright with anticipation, I notice my mother steal glances at Jason, a soft smile on her lips. It's as if the simple act of sharing a meal has reminded her of the momentous importance of family. She gently reaches for Jason's hand, resting it on top of the table, and he pauses, caught off guard. There is a fleeting moment of tension, but I hardly breathe as I watch. "Jason," she begins, her voice low but steady, "I want to talk to you for a moment. I know it hasn't been easy for either of us, but I'm truly proud of the progress you're making in therapy. I see the effort you're putting in." He blushes, glancing down at his plate as if finding solace in the mashed potatoes before him. "Thanks, Mom, it really means a lot to hear that." His voice trembles slightly, and I can feel the air become charged with unspoken emotions. They both are a mix of uncertainty and longing. There's a long way to go and it will take time, but what matters is that you're trying, she continues, her grip on his hand tightening as strength seeps into her words. I want you to know you're still my son and I love you. His eyes widen and I can see the wheels turning in his mind, a memory perhaps of all the pain he has caused. I'm so sorry, Mom. I never meant to hurt you. I let my anger control me and I stifled our family. I thought being strong meant lashing out, but that was all a lie. I've finally realized that. My heart skips with each word. It is transformative to hear him say such things, to see him pull back the layers he has built around himself. My parents are watching him closely, rapt with his every utterance. I can sense the moment when a wave of forgiveness washes over them, settling like soft silk instead of old, ragged cloth. Well, let's work on being kind to ourselves as a family. We deserve that, my mother replies, the harmony of her voice soothing yet firm. Jason nods, looking at her with a mixture of guilt and gratitude. You've given me so much and I never appreciated it. At that moment, I glance nervously around the table. The ghost of our family's past flickers behind us, a footnote we can never erase, echoed in the empty spaces between our words. But the warmth of understanding blankets us now as I lean back and absorb the transformation going on around me. I feel healthy and alive, a flower breaking through concrete, roots pushing their way beyond despair. I have longed for this for so long. I realized that the true revenge I sought was not to cause devastation, but rather liberation. The freedom that I wanted wasn't to see Jason crash and burn, but to reclaim the joy from our lives and to restore love where darkness once reigned. As dinner wraps up and plates are cleared away, there's an undeniable warmth in the air. My fingers brush against Jason's shoulder as I move past him to the sink, and he glances at me in surprise. For a moment, I see a flicker of vulnerability, a crack in the armor he wears, and I feel a surge of warmth in my chest. Together, we can heal. I believe that now. What's your secret, Clara? He asks, breaking the silence as he leans against the table, his demeanor relaxed for perhaps the first time in my memory. How did you manage to keep your head above water with everything? I chuckle softly, drying my hands on the dish towel as I look up at him. You know, I think it was a mix of stubbornness and hope. Hope that someday we would find our way back together, and stubbornness to never give up on my family. I can see understanding flicker in his eyes, rising like a tide before receding again, yet still shifting something within him. I don't want to be a burden any longer, Clara. I want to be someone you can count on. I want to change. Then you have to give yourself a chance to change, I replied gently. Letting go of anger doesn't make you weak. It shows strength. You're not your past. You're the one who can create a new future. Jason takes a deep breath and the tension in his shoulders seems to ease just a notch. Okay, he replies, his voice softer, more transparent. I want to be better. I nod, relief flooding through me. I believe you can be. As we stand there, a fleeting silence envelops us, but it is no longer uncomfortable. It feels alive, filled with potential. I glance back to see my mother watching us with a proud smile on her face and my father, his eyes full of hope and encouragement. The threads of love and compassion begin weaving back into our family tapestry once more. In this moment, it is not only Jason who is healing, it is us, together, catapulted toward a future filled with possibility and acceptance. As I look at each of them and finally back at Jason, I know that tonight is only the beginning. Looking back at everything we have endured, I find myself awash in the aftermath of calamity and chaos, which once descended upon us like an unrelenting storm. My battle against Jason was never solely about retribution. It was deeper, rooted in the restoration of balance and reclaiming our family's dignity. The journey has transformed me in ways I never fathomed. I've discovered resilience in the face of chaos and the empowerment that comes from standing up for oneself, even when it feels daunting, even impossible. Now, as I sit in the living room, the warmth from the fireplace casts flickering shadows across our walls. I watch my family interacting, their laughter filling the air, a sweet melody of normalcy that somehow feels like a distant treasure reclaimed. A feeling of peace settles over me, wrapping around my shoulders like a warm, cozy blanket. Each moment spent here is a poignant reminder of everything we have fought for, the battles we have won and lost, but in this moment I refuse to dwell on losses. Instead, I focus on the victories we have etched into our lives, each small act of kindness, every exchange of understanding. The kids are engaged in a playful argument about the latest superhero movie, their voices rising and falling like the tides, and I cannot help but smile. A few months ago, the air would have been thick with tension and uncertainty, but now my heart swells with pride as I gaze upon my family's newfound ease and affection for one another. Suddenly, a soft but firm knock on the front door interrupts the cozy chaos, like a pebble dropped into a serene pond. I rise, curiosity piquing my senses, and as I turn the doorknob, a rush of familiar warmth envelops me. Standing before me is one of our neighbors, someone who had intervened that dark night months ago when everything seemed lost. Their features reflect genuine concern and curiosity. Their eyes search mine for the unspoken words of our ongoing journey. I can feel the bond forged during that harrowing experience flicker to life again between us. Clara, they begin, a note of hesitation in their voice. I just wanted to check in on you. I've been thinking about you and your family. How are you all doing now? A small smile spreads across my face, one that carries both pride and relief. We're doing well, thank you. It's been quite a journey, but I think we're finally healing. Good to hear. That night, it was really scary. You showed such strength. I just had to make sure you were okay. They take a step forward, and I can see genuine relief and interest in their eyes. It was terrifying, I respond, momentarily lost in memory, but I didn't realize how much support we had until everything unfolded. It changed me the way I view strength and community. I gesture for them to come inside, and as they step over the threshold, a sense of relief washes over me. Would you like to join us? We were just about to share some stories and laughter. I would love that, they reply, stepping inside and glancing at the vibrant glow of the fireplace and the joyful chaos of my family. As we settle onto the comfortable couches, surrounded by the warmth of our hearth and hearts, I notice how my family seems to embrace this visitor. The kids, animated and unguarded, quickly welcome them into the conversation, sharing tales of their escapades, a whirlwind of laughter drenching the air. Do you see how Spider-Man flipped over that building? One of them squeals, eyes wide with excitement. Yeah, but Iron Man is way cooler, even if his suit does look heavy. Another chimes in, a grin stretching across their face. I watch, heart swelling, as my neighbor listens raptly to the enthusiastic chatter, the sparkle of hope evident in their eyes as they participate, asking questions, encouraging the kids to elaborate. It is a beautiful scene, one I could have never dreamed about just a few months ago. Your kids are amazing, my neighbor comments, shifting their gaze between them. They are so full of life and spirit. You must be doing a fantastic job as a parent. Thank you, I respond, humility washing over me like sunlight filtering through the trees outside our window. They mean the world to me. I've learned that love and support are what matter most during chaotic times. It has helped us come together in ways I never thought possible. That's powerful, they nod, their expression thoughtful. It's so easy to feel alone in a struggle. I always believed that neighbors should help one another, but witnessing your family's journey has been inspiring. It has encouraged me to reach out to others facing their own struggles. As they speak, a deep connection blooms between us. We never truly understand our own strength until we are tested, do we? I say, my mind wandering back to those dark moments when I had to find a way to fight back and reclaim my life. Every challenge has brought me closer to my family and closer to this community. There is a knowing look exchanged, one filled with empathy. We are all intertwined, they reply softly. Your strength has sparked something in me. I had my own battles, and now I am more determined than ever to help those around me. Healing is a collective journey. I nod in agreement and lean back, feeling a wave of tranquility wrap around us as we share stories, laughter, and a sense of purpose. Remember the story you told about the treehouse? My neighbor brings up with a chuckle, glancing toward the kids who are now engaged in a heated debate about superhero powers. That was incredible. Oh, that treehouse, it was a disaster at first, I laugh, only held together by duct tape and wishful thinking. But seeing it evolve into a secret lair brought so much joy and resilience. It reminded me how important safety and creativity are for children. It sounds like that treehouse became more than just a play space, they add, a smile brightening their features. It's amazing what our environments can teach us about perseverance. Silence fills the room momentarily as we both reflect on our words, the unspoken understanding swirling around us like a comforting haze. Then one of the kids jumps up, breaking the stillness. Can I show them my drawings from the art program? They bounce on their feet, excitement radiating from them like sunlight. Yes, of course, I encourage, smiling as they hurriedly dash off to find their artwork, eager to share. Art programs have been a lifeline for them, I share with my neighbor, especially after what we went through. Expressing themselves has allowed them to process everything in ways I can't even fully understand. That's beautiful. Art really does heal, they reply, nodding thoughtfully. So many people overlook the power of creativity during difficult times. It can be a voice when words fail us. I completely agree. I only wish I had seen that sooner, I add, looking over my shoulder to watch my child come bounding back, arms full of colorful drawings. As they present one vibrant picture after another, my heart swells with pride. Each stroke of color seems to tell stories of hope, of built fortresses in their minds where they felt safe. This one is my favorite, that's me, flying through the sky with my superhero friends. My child exclaims, eyes bright with imagination as they turn the drawing for all to see. It looks amazing, you're soaring, this is how it should feel every day, my neighbor praises, clearly moved by the infectious enthusiasm of my child. You are an artist, and this should proudly hang in a gallery. Wow, a gallery, my child beams, the thought igniting their imagination even more, and I feel a renewed wave of hope swell within me. The embers pop gently in the fireplace, releasing warmth that dances around us, mingling with the laughter and conversation that fill the air. I take a moment and step back from the unfolding scene, allowing myself to soak in the atmosphere of healing. I step outside to take a breath of the cool evening air, reflecting on our journey, the shadows of the past fading slightly as the sun sets behind riverside pines. The sky bursts into a flourish of colors, shades of orange, purple, and pink intertwining like threads of hope woven into the fabric of life. I know in my heart that even though the wounds may take time to heal completely, together, we can face whatever comes next. As the sun disappears, I return indoors, the warmth of laughter and love enveloping me like a soothing embrace. The doorway into our living room feels like a portal to possibility, a realm where battles have not only been fought but also overcome. I realize that our strength lies not in retaliation but in the fundamental truth of our bond. My family is no longer a battleground, it is instead a sanctuary filled with love, compassion, and growth. I watch as my kids and our neighbor exchange ideas and laughter, each moment a step toward creating a future brighter than we could have imagined. Together, we are weaving a tapestry of healing, hope, and endless possibilities. I feel a renewed sense of purpose burning brightly within me, deeper than ever before. I think about how I can extend my hand to help others who face similar struggles, knowing that together we can forge a path of support and understanding throughout our community, illuminating a way forward that shimmers with healing. With a heart full of hope and determination, I am ready to embrace whatever lies ahead.